Good morning, everyone. I am saying good morning because it's literally like 5 o'clock in the morning. Today I am getting ready for work and this is going to be a get ready with me. If you did not know, January is actually National Thyroid Awareness Month, and I am someone who suffers from a thyroid disease, and I decided that I wanted to tell my story because I feel as though there is not a lot of communication or awareness of thyroid disease, even though it affects so many people in America and so many people across the world. So I decided that I'm going to sit down, do my makeup for work, and just chat with you guys and just let you know how I figured out I actually had a thyroid disease. So with that being said, we're going to get started with this video. Alright, so I already have my brows filled in and I carved them out already with concealer, and I set my eyelids already, just so we can hop right into the video. This is not going to be a tutorial necessarily. This is, like I said, more of a get ready with me, just watching me do my makeup while we chat. But all of the products that I use, as always, will be listed in the description box below. So I'm actually going to be using the Naked Cherry palette. So I guess first thing we should talk about is, one, what is the thyroid gland? I guess that should probably be the first thing before I get into my story. So if you don't know, the thyroid gland is like a butterfly shaped gland in your neck. It's right in this area right here, and it's part of your endocrine system. So your endocrine system consists of several glands in your body, from your hypothalamus in your brain, your pituitary, your thyroid gland, your thymus, which is in like your chest area, your adrenal glands, your ovaries or your testes if you're a man. So yeah, the hormone, so it's the glands in your body, and basically they're one giant family, and they all work together to make your body function properly. Every gland has a job, and every gland works towards having total body health. So my story starts in high school. I was one of those kids who did sports in high school. So how it works, at least when I was in school, I don't know if that has changed or not, or what the procedure is. But in order for you to do sports where I lived, you had to get a physical done. A lot of kids, instead of going to your doctor, which traditionally most kids went to their doctor, in my school, you can go to your school nurse. So I set my appointment with the school nurse, and I went to go get my physical. So I go down to the nurse's station. I remember it's like in the middle of the day, and I go take my physical. And basically what a physical consists of is like they weigh you, they check like your blood pressure, they check like your spine to make sure it's like straight. It's really nothing too invasive. So I'm doing my physical and everything is going pretty good. And then it gets to her taking my heart rate. And she takes my heart rate and it was elevated. And she asked me, did I just come from gym, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no. I remember I didn't come from gym, because I remember it was like a no. And then she was like, well, did you run here? I was like, no. I mean, I walked fast to get here so I didn't have to be late, because I was all the way on the other side of the school and I was running behind, and I didn't want her to be like, oh, you missed your physical time, because I think I needed it like that day. So she tells me that I have to sit down for a few minutes. My heart rate was a little elevated, and she couldn't clear me until my heart rate goes down. She wasn't concerned. She thought I just probably overexerted myself before I got there. And she told me to sit down. So I sat in a chair right next to her. We were talking. She was just talking to me about random stuff. Nothing I can remember at this time. Probably like school or whatever. After about 10 minutes, she went to go take my heart rate, and it was higher then than it was when I first got there, which was strange to her because she physically saw me sitting down because I was talking to her for about 10 minutes. So my heart rate should have come down more to a resting heart rate. So she told me to go to the back where we had beds, and she said, I need you to go lay down and relax for like another 10, 15, 20 minutes, and I'll come back there and I'll check your heart rate. So I go to lay down, and I lay down for about 15, 20 minutes. So after about 20 minutes, the nurse comes back and she checks my heart rate again, and it's higher than what it was when I first came in. My heart rate just steadily kept getting higher and higher and higher. And this is when I realized she was concerned, because next thing you know, she calls my mother, and my mother's at work, and she tells my mother, you have to meet your daughter at the hospital. I'm sending her to the emergency room, calling an ambulance right now, and you need to meet your daughter at the hospital. My mom's like, whoa, what you mean? Like, what you mean you take my daughter to the hospital? And my mom convinced her not to call the ambulance because my mom didn't work too far. And my mom was like, I can just pick her up from school. So my mom left work immediately, and she picked me up and she took me to the nearest hospital. So at this point, me and my mom are at the hospital, the emergency room, and she is waiting for us to see the doctor. And the emergency room sucks because they take forever and a year. So I am waiting to see the doctor, and we're just waiting, and we finally get put in a room, and the doctor comes in, and the doctor asks me like straight up, like, are you on any drugs? Are you on any substance that we should know about? Blah, 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 blah. And I say no, because I never been the kind of person to do any drugs. So the doctor, of course, doesn't take my word for it. So they were like, well, we're going to do a series of drug tests on you. And they did legit drug tests. Like, they took my blood and all that to make sure, like, I'm not on drugs. And then they made me do a piss test. And my mom, all she heard was drugs. And she looked at me and was like, let this test come back positive. Let this test come back positive. I have that typical New York mother who, she don't play. Like, my mother is something fierce. You don't mess with her. And she just looked at me on some like, let this test come back positive, girl. Let this test, I dare it. I dare it. So the test comes back and everything is negative. Every drug, weed, crack, heroin, opioids, everything. Wait, I think opioids and weeds are the same thing. I don't even know because I don't even do drugs, so I don't even know. But anyway, everything came back negative. So then they were like, well, are you pregnant? And I'm like, oh, great. So then my mom hears pregnancy, and she's like, you better not be pregnant. You better not be freaking pregnant. Like, you're going to die. And I was like, Mom, I'm not pregnant. I'm not pregnant either. Like, these people got me messed up. These people got me messed up. They're trying to get me killed up in this hospital. Because they just throwing out, like, they're just throwing out disorders. Not even sure what's going on, nothing. So they gave me a pregnancy test, and I don't got no kids. So that means it was negative. Then it was like, okay, then what's wrong with her? So now the doctors actually had to use their brain and was like, okay, so she's not on drugs and she is not pregnant. So now what? So they started to think maybe there was something wrong with my heart. Maybe I could have a heart murmur. And it's making my heart overwork. So they started doing like ultrasounds and all that of my heart to see like if there was anything out of the ordinary. So anyway, back to the story. So they do the ultrasound and they do the x-ray in my chest and everything comes back normal. And at this point, I've been at the hospital for hours and they are no closer to figuring out what's wrong with me than the second I came in. And that's when my mom kind of, I don't know what made her say it, but I have a close relative, very close. I'm not going to say who because that their medical history is there to tell, not me. But I have a close relative who has several things wrong with them, and we always was told that the stuff that was wrong with this particular family member, it wasn't genetic or anything like that. It was just something wrong with them. So my mother didn't even think twice about just shellacking this on. My mother didn't even think twice about this particular person and their disorder and it having anything to do with me. My mom was like, well, so-and-so in our family has A, B, C, D, E, F, G wrong with them. And I don't know if that matters because it's not genetic, but, you know, maybe you should think about this as we're, you know, trying to figure out what's wrong, Gloria. So the doctor was like, okay, we can kind of look down this avenue, but they really wasn't taking that seriously. They were just like, okay, I mean, that's a theory. So they did order more blood to be taken, and I hate getting my blood drawn. I'm a big fat baby and I hate it. I had an experience when I was younger with a needle and a nurse not knowing what she was doing, and ever since then I can't. They give me another series of blood tests. So it's pretty late. It's after 10 o'clock and the doctor was like, look, we don't know when her blood tests are going to come back. So we're going to send her home with some propranolol. She needs to take it every such and such hours. I can't remember at this point. And we'll call you immediately as soon as the tests come back to let you know if she needs to come back and be admitted or if anything, if we see anything. So you didn't have to tell me twice. You definitely didn't have to tell my parents twice. We were all tired. And I get dressed and we start heading to the elevator. We're at the elevator, waiting for the elevator to come take us downstairs so I can go home. And the nurse says, we got her blood test back and the doctor needs to talk to you. So I'm like, oh great, they got my blood test back. So we go back to the room that I just left from, and we're sitting in that room, and the doctor comes in and he closes the door behind him and he goes, so we got back her hormone test and it's showing that her thyroid gland is overworking, extremely overworking, producing too much thyroid hormone. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? So he diagnosed me at that time. He did say, however, I need to go see a specialist. But at the time he said that I believe your daughter has something called hyperthyroidism. And basically what that is just your thyroid gland is producing too much of the T3 and T4 hormone, and it was affecting my heart. The doctor said that he's not a specialist. He said that, but he does know that my heart is working way too hard. Too hard that he is concerned about what was going on. And he felt like I need to seek a endocrinologist, which is someone who specializes in issues with your endocrine system, immediately. All right, so you know that saying where eyeliner or eyebrows should be sisters, not twins? My shorties look like their cousins twice removed, but it's early in the morning and I don't even care. So my mom called this close relative's endocrinologist and was like, hey, my daughter was just diagnosed with something at the ER, but they said that they needed us to go to a specialist to kind of get a conclusive answer. Can you see my daughter? They said it needs to be urgent. He was like, yes, bring her in the next day. So I went literally the next day after all this happened at the hospital. I missed school again because I had to go see this endocrinologist. And he did his own series of blood work. And it's really funny. He did the most random things. He sat 2 business cards on the back of my hands. He made me sit out like with my arms like this, straight out, and he sat 2 business cards, one on either hand, and my body was literally just like trembling. And my mom's like, Gloria, stop it, stop doing that. And I'm like, Ma, I can't, I just can't. And he goes, no, she can't. It's her body. She is like, her body is racing so much that she can't stop shaking. And my mom's like, you never noticed that you shake? And I'm sitting there looking at her like, if I noticed that I shook, don't you think we would have been figuring this out forever ago? I love when people ask you that question. You never noticed this? And then you're looking at them like,
if I would have noticed, then we wouldn't be here right now. Now would we?
Based on the blood test and the results, because we took the results from the ER from the night before and we brought it to him, he said that he could probably definitively say I do have hyperthyroidism. And what's so scary about hyperthyroidism is if uncatched, you can die from it. You can, he says that there's been cases quite a bit, it's funny because it happens to athletes where like they'll be on the court playing basketball or playing a game or whatever, and then they just fall out and die. And then they do an autopsy and they realize that these people had like a thyroid disease and they didn't know. And you're just like, how is people not talking about this? Because I could have been one of those people who just had a thyroid issue and died playing tennis or playing softball or playing volleyball, doing whatever, or walking to the freaking supermarket. So he did say that my levels were extremely elevated and he was really concerned, to the point where he didn't feel like my parents should wait to get this removed. So he gave us 3 options. The first was I could have surgery, and that would leave me with like a scar on my neck, and I would be out of school for a couple weeks, and it was my senior year, and I think everyone kind of was like, maybe that's not the best idea. Then the second was this series of pills. I don't even know what this procedure is called. And basically how it works is I took these pills and it would correct my thyroid. Well, in theory, it should correct my thyroid. And it was a 50% chance that this would work. So then, last but certainly not least, was the procedure that I actually ended up doing. And it was called the radioactive iodine treatment. And basically what that is exactly what it says. They give you radioactive iodine. So iodine, like infested with radioactive particles. And you could either take it like in a liquid form or a pill form. And you take a series of pills. I don't know if it's changed, but I know I had to take several pills. And your thyroid absorbs most, if not all, of the iodine in your body. Most of the iodine. I don't think it collects 100%. But a significant amount of the iodine in your body. So basically what this would do was your thyroid would go and absorb this radioactive particles from this iodine treatment, and it would kill your thyroid gland. You would be left with no thyroid, and then you would have to take thyroid hormone for the rest of your life. But if I could go back in time, I would have definitely preferred to kind of weigh out my options a little bit more and see if that's something I would have wanted. But if you're someone who you are facing a situation like that, even if you're a young adult, like, speak up. Even if it's to your parents, it's to your doctors. I know it's really hard to speak up when you're 17, 18, 16 years old, but it's your health, it's your body, and at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live in it for the rest of your life. So you should be more vocal with your health. Because in my heart, when all of this was going on around me, I wanted to say, hey, stop, this is moving too fast. I was a healthy, normal teenage girl yesterday, and now you're telling me that I'm sick and I can die. So I need for everyone just to stop and take a breath. And in my heart, I wanted to say that, but I never did, because I didn't want to, I don't know, I guess I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. Like I said, I have 2 parents who were very passionate about making sure, like, my health was number one, and I understand they were scared. Like, I would be scared too if someone told me my child could die, and you're just like, okay, how do we prevent that? Not more so, okay, let me get a second opinion, or let me talk to someone else to see what they say, because you might say she's at the point of death, and then another endocrinologist could be like, it's not that bad, we can kind of do a workaround where she doesn't have to do a procedure that can permanently affect her, like the radioactive iodine treatment or surgery. So I always say get a second opinion, get a third opinion if you want, because it's your health. But back to what I was saying. So I did the radioactive iodine treatment. Literally, I would probably say not even a week after being diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. And this is where I hear conflicting stories on like my experience versus like people I talk to. Some people I talked to said their doctor immediately put them on hormone supplements after the procedure that they went on, if it was radioactive iodine or surgery. And others say that their endocrinologist made them wait. My endocrinologist at that time, he was one of those that said, no, she should not be taking the supplements right away. My doctor said he is not going to give me hormones because your thyroid, while it's dying, because that's literally what you're doing, is killing your thyroid. While it's dying, it's going to be shooting out excess thyroid hormone, and your body is going to have a high amount of thyroid hormone in its system because your thyroid gland is going to be freaking out. It's going to be, oh my god, I'm dying, oh my god. And it's going to just be overproducing thyroid hormone. So he he said that he doesn't think he'll put me on the substitute hormone for about 4 to 6 months after I am done with this treatment. And he's a doctor, so I didn't question it. My parents didn't question it because he's the expert. So I was someone who I had all the side effects. They told me there was going to be no side effects and it was going to be great, and that was not the case. I was someone who I got really sick and queasy, and it was just not a good look at first. It didn't agree with me, but after a while, after a couple weeks, I kind of just mellowed out and everything started being Gucci, and I felt fine. I didn't feel any difference at first. Towards the end though of high school, like graduation, prom, I started seeing signs, and now I know it was the hypothyroidism, which basically in the beginning, like I said, I was hyper, which means my thyroid was overworking, and now I was becoming hypo, which means my thyroid was slowing down because it was dying. I hate using the word dying, but it's true. I killed that mofo. That mofo was dead. It had no shot. I started seeing symptoms of becoming hypo, but I never dealing with a sickness, didn't know that was what was going on. And I was 18, and the doctor told me 4 to 6 months, and this was only maybe like 2 months, 3 months after. Some of the symptoms I started seeing in the beginning was really dry skin. I realized, like, I went from having pretty oily skin, acne prone skin, to really dry, extremely dry, like uncomfortable dry skin. I noticed that I was getting a lot of Charlie horses and muscle spasms. I went through the summer and we reached out to the doctor, and he said he still doesn't think that I need hormones yet. What people don't understand is the side effects of having a thyroid that's underactive versus not having a thyroid at all is completely different. I went from being a normal teenage girl, no issues, no anything, to I couldn't stand for more than like 20 minutes because my back would just tighten up. All my joints would tighten up. My skin was so dry that I used to say I felt like I was like in a latex glove. Like I couldn't move because I was so dry. I was in like a fog, a haze. My brain just didn't work. And I had so many side effects. My hair started to thin. People be like, girl, it's just a thyroid. But what you don't understand, but you can live being hypo. Hyper, you could die from that. You can. And my quality of life just went down. And it was so depressing. Like, I didn't ever want to tell, like, my parents that I was depressed. But I was so depressed. I just, like, I could, like, it was the worst. It was the worst time in my life as far as, like, my health, because I just felt so bad. And I didn't want to say, like, how much pain I was in at that time. Now I'm a lot more vocal with my mom, especially. But at that time, I was unaware. And I think this is where the doctor I was seeing at that time let me down, because he wasn't, you know, he just had his idea of how I should be treated. And never once did he kind of ask me, well, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on in your body? He was just like, this is when we're going to start you. Never like, okay, let's check your levels. Let's see what's going on. He didn't even want to check my levels until like that particular time. So I dealt with that for a few, like 2 months, 3 months of just being in pain. And then finally, this doctor took my blood work and gave me the thyroid hormone. And he told me it would take about 2 weeks for it to have full effect in my body. But I felt better after a couple of days. And only because I felt so bad that feeling anything other than that was such an improvement. Because it's a struggle every day. Your thyroid affects so much of your body. It affects your period. It affects your metabolism. It affects like the lubrication in your joints. You could have like foggy brain and all that. So I suffer from like thinning hair. My hair is not as beautiful and luscious as it was in high school. I definitely see a change in like my texture of my hair and how thick it is. It's not as thick as I want it to be anymore. I have irregular periods. I never know when they're coming. I never know how long they're gonna last. I have extremely dry skin all over my body. I moisturize really well, but even still then, I have dry skin. I definitely suffer from foggy brain sometimes, fatigue. There's times where I don't want to get up because I'm so tired, joint pain. And what's crazy is a lot of Americans suffer from thyroid disease. So according to the American Thyroid Association, they say more than 12% of the U.S. population will develop a thyroid condition during their lifetime. And an estimated 20 million Americans have some form of thyroid disease. And I find it crazy that almost 20 million people in America have thyroid disease, and I hear nothing about it. I don't hear people talking about it. I don't hear people repping Thyroid Awareness Month. I don't hear people talking about it. I don't hear a discussion. And having hypothyroidism or hyper is just two conditions. There's thyroid cancer. You can have Graves' disease. You can have Hashimoto's. Like, there's so many different disorders that you can have that affect your thyroid. And I'm just surprised that there's no conversation. Like, there's no talking about it or anything. And I hear so much about breast cancer, which is a terrible disorder. Don't get me wrong, it's terrible. And if you are dealing with breast cancer or you've had it, you are a warrior, and I respect you. If you lung cancer is a horrible disorder. My grandmother died 2 years ago from lung cancer, so that was very hard for me and my family, so I understand. But I feel like if it's not breast cancer or lung cancer or anything like that, then it's not getting the recognition it deserves. And thyroid disease is a very serious disorder, and it just needs to be talked about a little bit more. So I have a friend who is barely hypo, who takes a very, very low dose of levothyroxine. And then you have someone like me who has no thyroid, who suffers a lot of symptoms. Ooh, sorry, I just picked up. Who suffers a lot of symptoms. And the extremes are so crazy. And it needs to be discussed. So not only is there 20 million people living with thyroid disease in America, but they say about 60% of them don't even know that they have a thyroid disorder. And a lot of people go through life living with a thyroid disorder and they don't know, and they just think, oh, I'm losing my hair, or oh, I'm just getting old and that's why my joints hurt, or oh, it's I'm just a big person, I'm going to be big forever. And I feel like if there was more discussion on this disorder, then people would go get checked more regularly. So I wanted to tell my story because even if no one watches this video, even if everyone watches this video, I mean, at least I can be a voice. I was someone who lived a very normal life. Never had dealt with anything extreme, and in one day my life changed completely, and I have been living with the disease for 9 years, and it sucks. It really sucks. Sometimes I don't know my own body, and unless you live with it, you don't understand. So thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really had a hard time deciding if I wanted to make this video or not, because I don't really tell people about my thyroid disease, because I feel like people don't take it seriously, or people are just like, girl, it's your thyroid. But what people don't understand is it's so serious, and it changed my life, and I deal with the repercussions of this disorder every single day. I'm really lost for words, because like I said, it was very emotional for me to sit down and film this video, because I'm putting something so personal to me out there for the world to see, and for the world to hear and listen and to judge. So it took a lot. Let's get this discussion going. If you're someone who suffers from thyroid disorder, thyroid disease, or you think you might suffer from a thyroid disorder or thyroid disease, why don't you post a comment down below? I will respond, and let's kind of get a community going, because like I said, beauty is more than just putting on makeup. Of course, I'm going to continue doing makeup videos. That is what my channel is, but I'm a beauty channel, and beauty is more than just skin deep. So thank you, and I'm really excited. So with that being said, bye.